Good morning.
Hey, Jenny. How are
Hey, I'm good.
you? Good.
Oh, oops, I need to fix my camera. That's not gonna work. There we go.
Now you're there.
Now I'm there. I know. It's a good thing I set my calendar to see the whole week because
Mhm.
I'm always on Flex Friday. So it doesn't show Friday. It always stops at the Thursdays. So when I expand it, I'm like, oh, okay. Definitely don't want to miss this.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I put it on my calendar with the Zoom link for the location. So all I have to do when it pops up is go click on the Zoom link and I'm there.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah,
have to go like looking for it or something like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then of course I have like 2 or 3 different Zoom accounts. So I'll make sure I'm like
Me too.
I
Yeah,
finally broke down and paid for a membership, with
we did
unlimited
too. Yeah, we
minutes.
did too.
Oh,
It's been great.
yep.
So yeah, I'm actually eating lunch right now, so I'll have
Oh,
my camera off for a little bit.
yeah. Yeah, I know. And I need to jump off at like 10:45 my time.
Mhm.
Um, I forgot I had a Cairo at 11:15. I'm like, oh, I need a half an hour to
Yes,
get there.
yes, that's important.
Yep. Sent me a
Important to
little.
take care of yourself.
That's right. Yeah, it sent me a little reminder.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to see. I didn't even get to catch up with you at Chapter Academy Leadership. You were
I know.
just so busy. We were so.
I was like, yeah, they had us scheduled from like 7 in the morning to like 8 or 9,
Yeah.
but it was good. It was like, it was busy in all the good ways.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah, it
like
was great,
a
you know?
sneak peek to forum, right? Like
Yeah,
that's gonna be how
exactly.
crazy it's gonna be.
Maybe at Forum but it seems like there's a little bit more time to kind of catch up
Yeah, for
sometimes.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. We're gonna do that intentional networking for sure.
I like that. Yeah.
Guess the rest aren't camera ready. We like seeing
There's
faces.
Lori.
Yeah,
Ah,
we're
there she. Oh,
we're
I
gonna
like
wait
the
a few minutes.
background.
So
Wow,
yeah.
nice.
Lori.
Super
Hey,
official.
thanks for taking care of that, Amber. I'm so
Yeah.
appreciative.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
hadn't
It
been
should be
on
delivered.
Facebook, so until y'all posted it and grouped me, I had, as soon as y'all posted it, I opened my Facebook and there it was, right?
Right.
I hadn't been on there to see that it was going on, so I so appreciated it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, like I said, I talked to her yesterday, so I was able to get like the hospital and the room number and get that,
That was great.
yeah, get that
Yeah,
taken care of. So yeah, absolutely.
appreciate it.
Yeah, so she'll get hopefully a nice surprise this afternoon.
Is
Jen, we're
she,
talking
where
about
is
like
she at? Is she in Florida or she's in?
yeah, her and Greg spend the
Those,
winter in Florida and then they
yeah.
come back to Arkansas because I called her and I was like, where are you? If you're in Arkansas, I'm driving to you right now. And she's
Right.
oh, I'm in Florida. So
Yeah, that's what I
yeah,
figured they were in Florida, but I wasn't positive. So
yeah, yeah,
We
we'll
talking
wait
about
a few
Rebecca?
minutes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I sent her flowers on behalf of the chapter ambassador family for this afternoon. It'll be a big, nice, bright, colorful bouquet that she'll
Good.
get with a real sweet message. So
Nice.
Be glad.
yeah,
Very good. Good
yeah.
job.
Now, I sent an email to all my area leaders hoping they would join us today. But
Oh,
so
good.
far it's only Jamal and he's a
Yeah,
chapter master. So we'll see.
yeah.
Last time we had more chapter ambassadors, I think, than we had
Mhm.
leaders.
Well, if I don't like when I see that leaders in the loop, if I don't immediately put it on my calendar, it's
Yeah.
gone. I mean,
Yeah.
it's gone.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be very intentional about that, about putting it on
Right.
the calendar right when I get it so that because I
And
live die by my calendar.
right, me too. And Jen's gonna send these huddles out to our calendar.
Oh, good. That would
Yeah,
be
so
great.
everybody will have it
That would be great.
for our group.
Yeah. So
Well, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. So unfortunately, you are stuck with me again today. Jen is off, so I'm going to lead just sort of our open discussion as we've done in the past. And I'm sure we'll probably talk a little bit today about those of us that were at Chapter Academy and the events that took place there in Houston. And then Caitlin is on the call with us. Hey, Caitlin. And she will actually check the chat and look at that and see if there's anything that we're missing along the way. I do see some new people on today, so that's exciting that we have some faces that I don't think I saw on the last call. And Kaylin, you and I are going to do a better job today of being able to go back and tell Jen how many people we had, because last time I hung up and I had no clue. So she likes to know how many people come on to us and how successful we are in moving it forward. So really, this is just an open forum for us to kind of talk amongst us as chapter leaders, and along with many of our chapter ambassadors, what we can do to help you, how we can further support you. And hopefully those that were possibly in Houston, brought back some ideas or things they want to continue to work toward, or goals that you may have as a result. So maybe that can be part of our conversation today as well. So I don't want to do all the talking. I'm just going to kind of let people jump in. If you have something you want to contribute or anything you want to ask, for those that maybe attended, or any new ideas that they came up with as a result of attendance and participation in Houston, we're open to try to discuss those and talk further about them. I think we all learned that, procurement is definitely transformational, and we're all transforming what we do every day into the new world of procurement, right? It's ever changing. We're ever transitioning from one place to the next, even as it relates to our job market and people out there available to be. I know that I'm working with a couple of districts right now, and we're really struggling to get qualified applicants. So we have to kind of pivot and think about new ways to put our ads out there. I went out and looked at a ton of ads from different jurisdictions to kind of see, what are people advertising? What are they saying when they're looking for procurement professionals in a world where they're not plentiful anymore, right? There's a lot of people retiring with a lot of knowledge, and then we're trying to bring new people on, and some of those aren't necessarily at an entry level role, but they're more, we're looking to hire more seasoned people, and that's just not as plentiful as it was in days past. So that's something that I know personally with the group that I'm consulting for right now is really struggling with. We have an upper management position as an assistant director, and then we have a senior level senior procurement specialist, they call it, that we're trying to fill. And both of those, I personally feel we didn't get a lot of good applications of people that are already in that space, whether they're in government or, schools or whatever. And I wasn't looking at just schools, but certainly that would have been a bonus for us in this jurisdiction. So anything that anyone wants to talk about, I mean, that might have led you into a discussion, and maybe you can share with me as well any ideas that you have on filling positions, or we can move on to another topic.
Lori, I'd like to hear what others that came to Houston thought about the Chapter Academy format this year.
That's a great question. Anyone that was there that wants to think about or contribute what their thoughts were on it?
Yeah, Kenny Downing from Copper Chapter. I was at the Chapter Academy. I thought it was really great. Me being a new board member, I've only been in this position 2 months. I thought it just really enlightened me about the role. I found lots of resources on the NIGP Chapter Resources website that I didn't know about. And I got a chance to sit at a table with other people who are VPs of membership. And I love how we were instructed to try to customize our chapter to meeting the needs of the members instead of meeting what the board thinks is the needs of the members. So that's what I thought was helpful.
Yeah, it was great to meet you, Kenny.
Yes, thank you so much, Kenny. And I think those are all great points that came out of at least the Chapter Academy breakouts. And I agree with you. I think we're so focused sometimes as a board on what we believe those needs are that we fail to engage our members directly, right? And so a lot of discussion was had, Jenny, on as you know, on how are we going to engage those members? How are we going to reach them? Is it going to be a survey? Is it going to be a survey like at the end of a conference, or is it going to be a survey that you send out that nobody even looks at? It goes to their junk mail or whatever. So better ways to do that. So great points. Anyone else?
I can go. I know,
Yeah.
Jenny, I actually sat next to you and provided you some feedback while we were in Chapter Academy breakouts. I was really hoping for more time with our areas. You know, when we finally got together on day 3, we were told not to talk about our chapter, which was really, you know, it was, oh, tell us what you need, but not chapter. It's in your workplace, which I appreciate. You know, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for our professions, but it's Chapter Academy. I'd really hoped that we would be able to address member engagement. That was the #1 thing that everybody talked about, and we were told, nope, we can't talk about that. So that was kind of disappointing from my perspective, because people there sounded like they had great ideas, but we didn't have a chance to talk about those things and to share those chapters that are succeeding. You know, they have their brag flyers, but I want to know how they do it. How do you implement those things? How do you get those going, you know, from where we're at? And I know there were a couple chapters that were starting over fresh, and they definitely could have used some, hey, here's how we do some things, and hey, this is this chapter is going to talk about how they started their scholarship program and provide you with a couple handouts. Or that's kind of what I was really hoping to
So
get out of the Chapter Academy.
absolutely. So Chandra, I got some of the same feedback that you just talked about. Was people would have liked more time with not only talking about their chapters as a whole, but even when we broke out into the president, vice president, you know, the roles, like they would have wanted to talk about, what do you do as president and how do you do it? And how have you been able to move your chapter forward? And like you said, we had that 1.5 day. And I think this is different than Chapter Academy in the past. Jenny, you know, you've probably been at Chapter Academy in the past. Many people on this call have, and I have. And so it was very different approach, I think, than what we've experienced in the past. So I would agree with you, Chandra, and I would strongly encourage you to put that on your survey and talk about that, because that's the only way that they know is through that feedback, right? So I would agree. I had lots of people share that exact same sentiment about what they wish they had gotten. I think all of the days were good, right? And I sat at tables with a mix of people, not even in my area necessarily, until we did like little, you know, games or whatever. But and you know, all of them sort of were the same. I also noted that some of the time when I was at those tables, that I felt that I thought about what one of the speakers said while we were at this event in Houston is sometimes, and a guy at my table said it as well, sometimes you need to learn to listen more and talk less. And I had someone at my table personally that did a lot of the talking, right? Even when I was supposed to be the facilitator, and it was really difficult for other people to engage. And I sometimes think I do this on my virtual classes that I teach. Sometimes when you break people out into small groups, they're more apt to engage, right? They're more apt to contribute than just do it in front of a whole room. And I think that's the advantage of breaking out into those specific groups and being able to talk more about, you know, tell me how you did that. Tell me why that was successful. And, you know, when you talk about a reverse trade show or a business event or whatever you're doing, tell me why, because you had so many resources there that I think there were some people that felt they didn't really get to fully tap into them. So I appreciate you saying that. And I will tell you that I heard it from multiple people, that same sentiment. And I actually used that as part of my survey as well, that I had received that feedback. So I encourage you, you know, I think it was a great event, but are there things we could do differently that would be more effective for you as a leader? Absolutely. Thank you for sharing.
And I'm glad that Chandra, you kind of kicked that off because you were reading my mind exactly. And the reason why I asked the same question, because I'm like, is it just me? Um, I mean, I'm happy that Kenny got what she got, but she's also a new leader, right? But for us, the season ones, we were looking for that more interaction with the non-season so that we can impart our knowledge to them. But I felt like when the energy was high, there was like, oh, time's up. Let's like, what, you're going to cut off the energy, and we were just getting started. I mean, I don't know about you. For 3 days, I think we could all talk to each other for 3 days amongst ourselves because we needed all of that FaceTime. The FaceTime is so important, and we don't have that FaceTime. We don't have the ability to um, really, I mean, one of the, here, I'm just gonna put in my survey that I put. I didn't put my name on there because I didn't want to sound negative, but I said in my suggestion, and I'm literally in the draft right now, sending to Jen my ideas, because when I told her my ideas for future that she could consider for Chapter Academy, one of my thoughts were, why don't you have a panel of um, officers by, president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, have them speak about their experience. And then it would just be an open, discussion at the end to basically like, yeah, I experienced the same thing. Here's the scenario. What do you do? So it's not like you always got to have seasoned people. You just need somebody who can say, I'm not alone. I've been there. Yeah, I know. I get what you're saying, but make it a really open, safe space where people can just like unload in a good way because they feel like they're not alone, that they
Right.
all struggle with that same things. So the chapter ambassadors I felt was underutilized. I feel like we should have met with our own area. Um, and that's how we can get to know, first of all, who our chapter ambassadors are. I mean, I'm not speaking for myself. I know who they are because I've been around too long. But the folks who are new, like literally, at dinner on the first night, I sat down at this table, did not realize they were from my area, and talked to them off, kind of on the networking side at dinner. I didn't know that they were, and they came in late and they missed the first day because of their flight was late. But like, did anybody notice, right? And I felt bad that they missed out on the first day. But again, the networking is so important that we need to really embrace that and make sure that everybody has that experience. So yeah, definitely.
So I would, and on the people from each of your chapters, I think that was a great point too, Jenny, that can lead me into something that I experienced as well. So I've been around a long time too, and but there's a lot of new professionals, even in my chapter. And so we wanted to do a picture. And in order to do a picture, you didn't want to feel like you were excluding anyone of your chapter, right? And so I found myself struggling on the last day of the conference or the day before, I think, trying to get that information from, Todd or whoever had it, right? Or Belinda, whoever. I had to go to them and say, hey, can you send me a list of everybody that's here from Virginia, right? Because I didn't want to leave anyone out. But then that left me with the task of, if I didn't know that person, right, trying to search them out. So, we were pretty successful in doing that, but I would have also liked to, when you talk about that, I would have liked to have known as a chapter leader who all was there from my
Yes.
chapter, right? So
Yeah.
that to me would have been something that would have been nice to have in my hand when I arrived,
Yep.
to say, these are all your chapter members, or even for those of us that are chapter ambassadors, these are all the people in your area. Right. In area 2, I want to know everybody that's there. And I did try really hard to make sure, and I did a area 2 picture as well. So I tried to make sure that I went around as much as I could to make sure. But again, even people that are chapter leaders, if they are new professionals, they may not know them. Right. They may
Correct.
not know these people individually. And just because you pull a list that says they live in Virginia, that doesn't mean they're a member of my chapter. Right. And right now, my chapter is in the middle of their membership renewals. So there's a lot of people when I'd go out to the website that aren't showing it as a member yet because they haven't paid yet, but they have till March 31st, right? So even though, you know, they have till March 31st, you know, they haven't paid, they are still a member, you know,
Yeah.
realistically. That's just how it rolls with our chapter. But yeah, I agree. And they were two of the things that I thought about coming into it, and because we struggled with getting it ourselves. So I think that's something that each of you kind of are speaking to as well, Jenny, especially like when you said you didn't even know they were a member of your chapter, right?
Nope. Well, I
Um,
mean, yeah, in my area, but I mean, in the
right.
past, that list has always been provided, so you
Mhm.
knew who was coming. So not having
Right.
anything in writing or a booklet, a welcome something, even like we didn't know when breaks were happening or like an announcement in the morning to say, because I sat on the first day, I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be somewhere else. I didn't realize this, I'm in the wrong room. So there wasn't like announcements in the morning to say, hey, just a reminder, Chapter Academy, you got to go over there
Right.
at this time. And so is going to stay in this room and the rest are going elsewhere. So I don't know if there was a disconnect there. It seems like Summit and Edge knew where they were going, and the rest of
Right.
us, I guess, didn't because we were like way over there. But yeah, no, I think, and normally I'm not like, oh, let's do it the way we've always done it because I've been in so many chapter academy, but even the activities weren't really pumping us that like gives us ideas about our chapter. It felt unrelated. Like it was an exercise, but it wasn't an exercise where, because in the past when we would do these exercises, we were like on it, like you couldn't stop people so that they could write. Here we were like, we were struggling. We were like, what do we say? What is
What
it?
is it that
What's
they
the
want?
assignment? Yeah, it was like a lot of questions before we can even get started. Yeah, the camaraderie in the room just didn't feel, the energy was just different.
And sometimes I think those activities that aren't necessarily word related, let me say it that way. But I mean, I remember back in the day when we painted at Chapter Academy, right? Or we decorated something, but it was a sense of teamwork when you were
Yeah.
doing it. It wasn't just a sense of, oh, I got to read something and I got to figure out why this is this. I think we did a lot of that in our bigger groups, right? When we were all together as a whole. Right. But then when we break out into our groups as far as Chapter Academy, I think it would have been nice to go back to some of those things that we did in years past that really was just a part of, you know, team building, right? You're working together as a team to get here, and you can have those relaxed, informal conversations along the way, right? And I think that's what you're
Agree.
speaking to, Jenny.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Anyone else?
I have another feedback.
Sure.
It would be awesome if we had optional breakouts. So you have a couple different things that those breakouts are focusing on, and the chapter leaders can choose which is most important to them. So scholarships, how to implement a program. That's important to me because we don't have a program. So having a breakout for the people that are most interested in that, and not just saying, well, you have to pick between the two, because guess what? I also want to know about vendor fairs. But having the opportunity to go to those, and it could be a survey in advance of what are the 3 things you really want to learn about, and then setting up breakouts for that. Because while it's great to work in that big group, again, I need something a little bit more focused for my chapter.
Agree. Yeah.
Or
Even
you
the
can maybe do
website.
it as a round robin, Sean.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Like
you could kind of,
speed dating.
okay, 30 minutes, we're going to be in this group, and then you're going to all change to your next group. And, instead of it like, maybe you get a little bit of everything, but maybe you just rotate, kind of like you do in those type of games. Great ideas.
Yeah,
Great. I'm writing
definitely.
them all down.
I think the other one too, I'm sorry, I'm just like pumped up on this, but Carrie brought her binder. I was really hoping she was going to present a little more something. I'm like, man, I should have stolen that flash drive because there was like, I tried to take pictures, but I'm like, I was really hoping she was presenting the boot camp rather than just, oh, see you in July, sign up for it. And I'm like, oh. And then Fred was kind of rushed, right? He was talking about the website, but we didn't go through the website. So then I'm like, okay, that was important because we all are, they're trying to advertise Club Express and have everybody be on it. So what's so great about it? But if you don't do a live demo, then and just share screenshots, then it's like, oh, I didn't really learn anything. Let me just go back to the Club Express biweekly and ask my questions there. So
I
Right.
agree. I wanted a PDF of the boot camp, like all
yeah.
the stuff that was in there, that would have been
Mhm.
really helpful for
Yeah.
me rather than just like the one physical copy. And like you said, you're kind of like looking through, you're trying to take pictures and trying to,
Yeah.
on your phone, and that gets a little awkward.
Yeah, it was awkward.
And I know that Carrie and her team have done the boot camp presentations at Forum. So I
Mhm.
know it's been out there and offered in that setting, but everybody doesn't get to come to Forum, right? And there were a ton of people at this event that were on scholarships, right? So how awesome was that? So I think that would have been nice. And I think even some of the people in our Chapter Academy group, they had more than one person, which is not always the case. So you did have a lot larger group participating. So I do agree with you, Jenny. I think that would have been a nice presentation. So that's something again that I put on my list for next year. Because Jen and I, worked really hard trying to come up with the right agenda. And of course, they had already contracted with Peggy to do the facilitate and everything. And so, this really will help us as the chapter ambassador group when we're planning again, next year. Like there were discussions that I felt that we started right there that we needed to continue. So like, how do we continue those now? Like, is there some way we can have a Teams follow up? And I'm not talking about just with like Victor or those people, but us as a group that really had that. This is great, a great forum, but how can we tap into each other's resources that we felt like we weren't able to at Chapter Academy? Great, great, great conversations. Okay, anyone else? I'd love to hear some other comments, good or bad. No judgment on this call.
Well, I was new. Hey, Lori, good to see you
Hey.
again. I was new as an attendee and new as an ambassador, so I felt like it was just a great opportunity for me to get familiar with the setting. So I don't have a lot of feedback, on improvements, but I did hear from others that Chapter Academy was where it was at. So just take that for what it is worth. I think a lot of the good conversation and the good work is being done at that level. So I definitely advocate for that to continue being a part of the summit. And I just
Absolutely.
received, some really encouraging feedback like, oh, I wish I would have just chosen to stay in Chapter Academy, even though I'm interested in, more of a leadership
Track.
subject, but they still found there's a lot of value to
Well,
it.
obviously, before COVID, and those again that have been around a while, we didn't have a leadership track. It was always just Chapter Academy. It was a lone event, and it was held at that beautiful old hotel near the Dulles Airport. I say that being funny, right? Because it wasn't the nicest hotel. I can't even remember what it was, a Sheraton or something, right? But we only had Chapter Academy. We didn't have those leadership tracks at all. That all started the year that we had the leadership track in Anaheim. And then that was such a great event that I think NIGP recognized the need to have that again. And so they sort of put that all together with Chapter Academy and then brought in Leaders Edge. Great ideas. I think it's great to have it. I think it's great for our opportunities to network with those other groups. I think that Peggy is an awesome facilitator. And that's one thing I heard from people was they felt like in that leadership track and Leaders Edge, that they didn't have quite, and I'll say more in the leadership track, that they didn't feel like their facilitators were as, engaging. And, they talked about, they went into, and I got a lot of feedback on that one where people talked about, when they talked about coaching, you're in a room full of people that are typically already leaders, right? And so they felt like they didn't get as much out of that as they had hoped. I heard a lot of feedback on that. And I actually shared some of that before I left the event with a couple of people, because those are people that you want to stay engaged, right? And are typically going to be some of your chapter leaders going forward. So I did hear a lot of feedback on that too. So I do think you're right, Lisa. I think that Chapter Academy is where it was at. And certainly our CAs, you know, we did our best to be very actively engaged. I hear what you-
Take care.
Hey.
Good. Getting good.
Kim, your mic is on.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. We just knew that you were having fun in your office and we weren't. So I think, you know, I would agree with you. And I can't remember if it was you, Jenny, or Chandra, that said you would have liked to engaged more with your chapter ambassadors, you know, in those breakouts and stuff. And I agree. I would have liked to have been with my team a little more and really got to know them and what their challenges were, instead of just saying, oh, every chapter ambassador sit at a table and make sure we have an ambassador at every table, right? That was great. And I think it allowed us to meet other people. But I do think that we're all trying to develop those relationships in our own area. And you were trying to develop those with us. So I think that would have been nice. I would agree with that. Anything else? Stacy, I see you shaking your head lots, and I know you turned your camera off now. So I've been waiting for you to contribute. I'm throwing you under the bus.
That's
I'm
'cause
sorry.
I'm eating breakfast, sorry.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
But I will tell you, and this seems like a minor thing, and I apologize for bringing it up. But as somebody who can't eat sugar, the first day of snacks was nothing but sugar. And then the second day or the last day when we got out, the food was all gone when we got out. So I had to go buy stuff. So that was kind of disappointing. There was a few of the conversations that we've gotten going on in Chapter Academy that we ended up, okay, stop discussion. We were like 2 minutes in. We barely got started.
Yeah.
And there were so many people that I saw speak that I really wanted to go connect with them. And I really wanted to hear what they had to say because they had so many great things. And I really do wish we had that opportunity to connect with them more. I mean, I thought the plenaries were great. Very impactful. And yeah, Chapter Academy, I was really hoping for, being also new to the Academy, learning more, being able to resource with other people. So, because I didn't even know some of the things that were under my responsibility until we were at the conference. And so I was kind of, oh, that's me.
That's how much should be doing. Mm-hmm.
So, it was fantastic. And I'm so grateful I got to go and meet so many amazing people, and be a part of this whole family. It's amazing. So thank you guys for all of that.
I think your point about the food is always a big one, right? I've never planned a conference yet that somebody didn't have an issue with food. And it's hard. It's really hard. I do agree with you. We have to be very cognizant of that. And we also need to think about, I noticed too, on that last day, it did seem that they were just giving us the rest of the stuff that was left. That's how I felt, because it clearly did run out really quick. And it was a real hodgepodge of stuff, you know? And I know that those breakouts are expensive and all that. And NIGP did pay a tremendous amount for us to be there. You know, there was a lot of expense to them with this particular event. But again, we pay to be a member of an organization that we anticipate is going to use that resource that we're paying into to give back to us, right? So that's sort of that expectation. So I appreciate you saying that. And again, I'm going to take all these bullets back, and I'm sure Caitlin and I together will, to Jen and the team, and let them know, you know, some things that are just great points. So Jamal has his hand up. He didn't turn his camera on, but I'm going to make him do it because, you know, we need to see you, Jamal.
Unfortunately, I cannot. I am still recovering.
Oh, Lord.
from
He's going to
Houston.
talk about his bad experience, right?
Yes. So much to what Stacy said earlier, I do agree with her. There was no room for organic conversations and the organic growth of relationship between the chapter ambassadors and the chapters. As you know, for something like that, especially with introductions, being on a time limit, it kind of hampers, you know, building that relationship, because it's like, okay, what are you doing in each chapter? Okay, everyone, time's up. So what do you come up with? And it really inhibits having that natural relationship, that natural conversation, you know, with conversations with people every day. It's not on a time limit, right? And so understanding that's what those networking receptions and everything is for. But and under that point, you're so burnt out from the day. And at least for me, I have a social battery. I don't feel like talking to people when my social battery is done. So, you know, given more opportunity during the day to have those conversations will be a benefit overall for the relationship for the chapter ambassadors and the chapters.
Great points. You know,
Mm.
and I wrote social battery. Jamal, I want to keep that one on my forefront of my brain. Because I hear that a lot. Like people are like, I'm done, right? I'm spent and I'm ready to get in my room now. I've done all the talking I want to do today. And so you don't want to do that necessarily. And maybe you're not one of those people that want to hang around the bar and talk work anymore. Maybe it's all about personal now, right?
I heard that a lot too. I heard that it was, I don't know, probably about 60% of the people were talking about how they're introverts. So to the battery issue, but I'm an extrovert. So being around people charges me up. So, but I try to be cognizant of that when I'm dealing with procurement people, that they're mostly introverted and that they're like, I've got a ceiling, I've got a limit, and I'm done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
So I wanted to jump in here, Tony Reed from Maryland Public Purchasing Association. So I wanted to say part of why I was there to connect with people and ideas. So if they had asked me, you know, why are you here? To connect with people and ideas. And I'm really big on introductions. And so what I didn't see was like, who are the chapter ambassadors? Who are the presidents? More importantly, who are the vice presidents or the presidents elect or whoever the next person coming up? Because that's when you can really connect with those people, especially like, you know, I'm in area 2, and we could talk about what we plan on doing a year from now. You know, how do we plan on, you know, working with our president, because the president's the president. What ideas they have, what are we doing now? But more importantly, how are we going to next year when we become president? How are we going to further those initiatives and come up with some of our own initiatives? So a lot of times when we get into those meetings, you have a person who's brand new and they start the meeting, and at the end of the meeting, you don't even say, wait a minute, who are our new people? You know, stand up, be recognized. And so I'm really big on introductions and letting people know who they are, because I may want to say, oh, wow, somebody's from Virginia. Let me go say hello to them. But if I don't know that, then that's where I'm not connecting. So I just wanted to mention that. And I really appreciate you inviting me, Lori. You know, we in the federal government, they call it a hot wash or after action report. And you really got to do that right after the event or what the program was, so that people can still remember a lot of these things and then not forget. So I appreciate that. So that was just my comment.
Well, thank you for being here. And I agree. I think we even said that as chapter ambassadors, right? And we shared it with our member council group, I think, Amber, and those of us that were in there, Lisa and Alyssa, we said it would have been nice, right, to understand who each person is and what their role is. We really wanted those more personal, you know, and they did introduce us, whatever, in a little bit of a fun way, but I don't think they really, like you said, Tony, they didn't say all the presidents stand up and you have 5 minutes to talk about yourself and tell us, you know, what is your vision for next year, or what is your vision for the next 5 years, or whatever it may be, and then kind of identify. And the only time that we break out into those groups, dividing them up in, you know, between presidents and vice presidents and so forth. And as you know, there were multiple tables. So you may have only been sitting at a table with 4 or 5 others, and there were 12 of them or 15 of them or 20 of them. And so maybe you weren't even connecting with one that was of the same size organization as yours, right? It would have been nice to say, oh, all small chapter presidents, you know, here, and all medium chapter presidents here, and those kinds of things. So I think these are things we can look at and hone in on for future input, you know, to make it better. You know, what I'm hearing is, You don't always need a facilitator, right? We have a room full of great procurement professionals that if you just say, this is what we're going to break out and do right now, they're going to keep those conversations going. Right. And yes, it's nice to have someone to spark ideas and share those, or maybe, that facilitator goes around to those individual tables and brings that all back to the larger group. But as procurement professionals, being able to share with one another, that's why I encourage people to go to conferences, right? It's not all about just the content that's being offered there. It's a lot about the networking, right? And being able to, be with like-minded people and talk about challenges you have. I work in a school district up in Northern Virginia right now. They've never attended a conference. And I was like, oh my gosh, you've never attended a conference. And what I've said to them as we registered them for one upcoming is make sure that when you attend, it's not all about being in the sessions. Like, go to the events in the evening. That's, the first timers or the young professionals, whatever group you fit in, because that's when you start to build, right? That's when you start to build those connections, is when you break away sometimes. And that's what I think all of you are saying today is we should have had more time to break away into those individual groups. I think that's a common theme here. Anyone else? I so appreciate all the conversations. Hey, Marge.
Hey, sorry I'm late.
No, we're happy to have you.
Yeah, Marge is one of the new people I met, and she's now joined our Procurement Women Leaders Facebook group, which is also another great thing I think that came out of Chapter Academy. We, added like 50 more people to our group. Sorry, man, but
I know. That was exciting, right?
Anyway, Casey, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna add, so I was in Houston too, but unfortunately not Chapter Academy. I was at Leaders Edge.
Okay.
I just wanted to add that it was an awesome program, and if anybody's thinking of applying to that next year, I would highly encourage you to do so. And I'm hoping to make Chapter Academy next year, so I appreciate you guys getting all the kinks worked out, so it'll be perfect for when I go. But no, I heard some great things about that too, so pros and cons definitely, but I would definitely recommend Leaders Edge if you're considering that program.
Thank you for sharing that, Casey, because I think we've had a lot of focus on Chapter Academy, and there are other people on this call today that weren't a part of Chapter Academy necessarily, because this huddle is made up of our chapter leaders, right? So not everyone attended that. So Casey, I really appreciate you jumping in and sharing. I heard that same sentiment from some individuals that I knew that attended Leaders Edge and people that have attended it last year as well, is that they just love that program. And what I think Leaders Edge does for a lot of our younger professionals and newer in the profession, want to be leaders and soon to be leaders, right? They're going to be our next generation of chapter leaders and be at our Chapter Academy. So appreciate you being on the call and actually talking about that. And hopefully, like you said, next year, you're not going to just be there for Leaders Edge, but you'll be there as a chapter leader. So thank you.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
What chapter are you in, Casey?
Copper chapter. So Southern Arizona. Yeah.
Great. I think we had somebody else on here from Copper chapter, right?
Yeah, we have Kenny, and it looks like Teresa's also on. So we're well represented this year.
That's good. We got to do better at getting some of our other chapters on here, don't we? Jen wasn't sure. She's like, everybody's going to be burned out from last week. We might not have anyone on the call. And so I was like, well, we'll see. But I think we have a great turnout. Anyone else? This is all great conversation. Y'all want to move on from Chapter Academy and Chapter Edge and Leaders Edge and all that on to another topic? Anyone else have something they want to throw out there?
I just want to ask a question. Do you, the delegates that go to Chapter Academy or Leaders Edge that are in the board, do you guys do a report out to your team? That's something that we'll be doing. But then when you report out, do you now also report to the membership? What kind of communication, if any, is sent out?
Great question. Marge, what do y'all do in Pennsylvania?
So we have a membership meeting on the 18th, and Lisa and I will do a presentation to the entire membership of what what we did and what we learned. We'll talk to the board before that, but we'll do probably do like, we do educational sessions, so we'll take one of the sessions and just kind of let everybody know what goes on and what we learned.
Perfect. And I mean, y'all's meeting timing is perfect for doing this follow-up as well, because they already had that on the book for their quarterly meeting. How about the copper chapter? Have you guys, what do you all do?
Well, we don't have anything official, but I know for me, I'll try to write something up. And for forums, we do ask that people give kind of a summary of what they got from forums. So I imagine we'll try to do something similar for Edge or Chapter Academy, something like that. And then publish it either on the website or in our newsletter.
Great.
And happy procurement month, by the way, folks.
All new,
Make sure
right?
you celebrate that.
Yeah.
And also the Professionals Day is March 13th, 14th. I need to remember. We did a proclamation.
Yeah, and when you guys celebrate purchasing month, you know, be sure to post things so we can all see it. We'd love to see what everyone's doing for procurement month, because I think it's always fun to see what great ideas people come up with.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of chapters do like little contests and things like that. I don't know what your individual chapters do, but I think it's great to see that. So please share that.
Yeah. And make sure to send it to Kate Patton. An email. I think it was sent in as an email, like chapters@nigp.org. Send your, by the end of the month is what she told me to send it over
Okay.
to her. So.
Caitlin, is that correct?
Yeah. So send it to chapters and then we forward it on internally.
Okay.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Kim, what does Delaware do for kind of a follow-up to attendance at those events? Do you all have a recap that they present to your board?
Absolutely. Anytime anybody goes anywhere, it's understood that when you have the next meeting, you are expected to go up there and pretty much tell everybody what you experienced, what you learned. If you took any notes, a lot of times we'll put that on a slideshow so that people can, you know, look at those and things like that. So we actually have a meeting on the 7th. So we're gearing up to make sure that Cliff presents since he was there.
Great. Yeah, he's spent a lot of time with us. How about your chapter, Alyssa? I might have caught Alyssa when she wasn't with us. Tara, what does your chapter do?
I believe they were going over something today at the, we had a chapter luncheon today. I was sick, so I wasn't able to attend.
Okay.
But they also had our ambassador presenting also.
Okay, great. Anyone else? Terry, what about your chapter?
So I haven't actually heard of any events we're doing this year. We got, and I did this, I got the governor's proclamation done and we published that in our newsletter. But I am not an officer. I'm the program committee co-chair. So I have not heard of any events that we're doing. So I really don't know.
Okay.
Sorry.
Do y'all do a follow-up after attendance at the events in Houston? Does your leaders come back and talk about their stuff they did there?
They usually do, yes. I know
Okay.
back when I was president, I was president for 4 years, some years ago, and that we always did. And I know we used to. I think they still do.
Okay.
So
Thank
we're
you.
having a board meeting Wednesday prior to our first quarterly meetings. I assume I'll hear some more stuff then.
Great. And you know, when y'all have those discussions and you bring it to your boards, that would be a great opportunity for you guys to provide some feedback. Even aside from the survey, you can provide it to your chapter ambassador would be fine. You can provide it, you know, directly. choose someone else at NLGP if you choose to, but certainly you can utilize us as your chapter ambassadors to funnel that through, because we would love to share, good and bad feedback so that we can all grow from it. Trudy, what about your chapter? Do you all do a follow-up after these events?
Sorry, I was trying to find the mute button.
That's okay.
We actually we'll go over the chapter dashboard and our goals and how we came to that and what we learned at Chapter Academy. So we will be doing that. We have a board meeting on the 19th of March. And so we will be going over what we learned at Chapter Academy as well as the Leader's Edge, because we had some people who attended Leader's Edge as well as Impact. So we will do an overview of all three of the programs that we attended.
Great. That's great. I'm sorry, I'm calling people out. I know y'all are gonna not want me to lead this anymore. Anything else anyone wants to contribute? I'm not going to keep you on the call just to keep you on the call, but we certainly want to hear, anything anyone wants to share and any, yes, Stacy. See, I got her to talking and now she's good. She's comfortable, right?
Oh, let's roll. On that subject, like I had my committee meeting yesterday, day before yesterday, and I told them I wanted to share this stuff, but I really want the slideshow and stuff so that I could share some of the
yeah,
materials.
it's coming.
So I told them, I'm like, okay, I have to wait. I can't tell you guys about it yet.
Yeah, she's working on them. And I mean, I don't know how much y'all have worked with Peggy, but we've been around Peggy a long time. And Peggy changes her slides up until the last minute, right? She probably shared that if you were in the room on multiple occasions. So I can only imagine that she's probably still adding things to it. But Jen will get those out there to you, as Caitlin said in the chat. And I don't know the exact timeline, but we'll make sure that she knows how important it is to make it sooner than later.
Will we also be getting the slideshow from the plenaries?
I believe so, right, Caitlin? I think so.
I'm checking on that. I'm not sure if they're going to post them in Insight or what kind of the deal is with those. I've sent a couple emails to check to see what their plan is.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I remembered them saying that at the event, but I might be wrong. Great. And I do think having those slideshows are very beneficial, Stacy. I mean, for me, I'm a visual person. I like to look at things when I'm talking about it. I'm still a print out things when I'm reviewing documents. Everybody laughs at me. So I still waste paper. But I'm very old school. So that's how I work best. I get it.
Hey, Lori, do we know where Leadership Summit's going to be next year for budgeting purposes?
I don't think that it's been determined yet. I don't think they've done the site visits, Tara. I think we'll have an idea sooner than most, because they'll need to do some visits and stuff to look. I know that, one of the thoughts this year was, last year we were in St. Louis, it was extremely cold, right? And so the idea was to try to go somewhere that was a little bit warmer. And that's why I think we ended up in Houston, so that people could enjoy, getting out and visiting and, just being outside a little bit, but it was extremely cold in St. Louis. So I think that's something that I think will be a theme. Kaylin, you're not aware that they're looking at a place yet, are you?
I haven't heard any specifics yet. I think a lot of it has to do with when we get the surveys back, like what people liked about this one, so then we can take that into consideration when we're planning for the next place.
Right.
We do have a meeting, I think next week. It's our first meeting after Summit, so that might come up then.
Okay. So we'll share as soon as we know. Let me just say, I'm just very excited that it's no longer just in Washington, D.C., right? So it's been really fun being able to go to other locations. I'm happy about that personally.
Casey, it looks like Casey has his hand back up.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry, Casey. I missed it.
Oh, no problem. So we have kind of an off-topic question that I was going to ask, but we recently had members of Cooperative be interested in joining our chapter. I was curious if anybody else allows that. If so, What does that look like? What does their involvement look like? So just kind of wanted to pose that question.
What does your bylaw say? I'm just curious. Does it allow for that? Because my chapter's bylaws would not allow for it.
Okay, so that's good to know. We have one that is for like private, so it would be more like if a private company had a procurement. We don't have anything written in the bylaws for cooperatives yet, but something we're definitely looking into. So that's kind of the reason for the question too, to see if, man, it's good to hear that some people don't allow that. Just wanted to kind of see what the group thought on that.
In Virginia, we have partnerships with some of those cooperative groups. Some of them, provide scholarships, things like that, but they're not an actual member. And even when they register for conferences and stuff, they're registering as a vendor and or, through their sponsorship, not as a member. So they certainly don't have the right to vote. And that's, would be a big difference in a member. Most of the time that's the case. Even sometimes retiree members are no longer able to vote, right? Depending on your bylaws. Teresa, were you going to comment on that, or did you have this
Well,
question?
I'm with Casey,
That's what I
so
thought.
but the problem too is that some of our members that have been members for a long time are now cooperative based
Right.
or NIGP consulting based and while we code them a certain way in our system to the outside world, they look like they're part of something else. So either they're retired or they're we have what is it, Casey? The teaching one. They're educators.
Right, you're right.
So we've coded them in that area because we do have that in our bylaws. But to the outside world, they look like they're cooperative members already, and now we have other cooperatives.
That think that that's the case. So I think that's the distinguishing difference, right? So if that was a person that retired from public procurement and you allow for retired members to continue with their membership, to me, that's very different than if they join now as a cooperative, right? Again, I think you might want to think about adjusting your bylaws to address it. Does anyone else have where they allow those individuals to be a member? I get what you're saying though, because you're right. I mean, a lot of people retire and then they go in another space and, they've had a long relationship with your chapter, right? So they don't want to break those ties. But if I'm a Sourcewell person and I see somebody that now works for Sourcewell that was a prior retired public official, I might say, well, why can't Sourcewell, other people in Sourcewell be a member or whatever, right? And that might not have been a good one because they're kind of considered a governmental entity, but another cooperative contract, an Omni or whatever. I would agree. Anyone else have that? Or have addressed that or been confronted with that?
We were confronted with something a bit different, but you might learn from it nonetheless. In a different role, because I work at a public housing authority. So I also belong to a state public housing authority group, which is not procurement centric, but it does have a procurement committee of which I co-chair. But they allow associate memberships for non-public housing authority groups such as vendors. So our chapter several years ago, when I was president, actually, you can see the correlation, was approached from some private sector, some vendors, would our chapter allow memberships for, it was actually an architectural firm, would we allow them an associate membership? So seeing potential dollar signs, I took it to our board and we had a very robust discussion. There were some really heated passions on both sides. And I had talked to the other group to get what their logic was, because it's also a nonprofit, it's a trade group supporting housing authorities, same premise, it's just not on a procurement. And their premise was their life involves vendors and they don't allow them to vote, but they know that housing authorities cannot exist without vendors, just like procurement, and they like their dollars and they want them involved, blah, blah. same arguments that certain board members made in our chapter. We can't exist without vendors. We can make a membership category that can't vote, can't attend business meetings, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of passion, and we chose not to ever take it to a floor vote because the board was, I don't know, probably 70-30 or something against it. We're very passionate, and we're not usually, and I'm exaggerating, but we're not usually ready to come to fisticuffs over things. We're usually pretty agreeable lot, and I'm exaggerating by far, but for us to be so passionate, it was just a interesting issue. But the big thing is, do your bylaws allow it? And then from a just a purely political side, is there going to be a big hullabaloo over it within the organization? Is it worth it? I guess that's my bottom line. Would it be worth it if there's going to be a lot of perturbed people? And
I get, and
part of one of the arguments against it was, is it opening the door? What are you opening the door to next? That was one of the big, and I'm trying to remember, it's been 7 or 8 years now since I was president, but I think that was one of the big arguments. Well, what's next, Terry, if we do this? So
yeah, I would agree.
Those are exactly the conversations we're having now. So I definitely appreciate that. And our bylaws are fairly silent on it. So that's why we're trying to decide how to revise those to make it clear one way or the other. And so, yeah, definitely appreciate your guys' help on that.
That would be a good opportunity, Teresa, Casey, for you guys to maybe get copies of other sets of bylaws that do speak to that. Copper chapter is one of the larger chapters, I think. Right? Am I right?
Well, we've got about 100 members, so I think
Oh,
we're
okay. So
actually
I'm wrong on that.
smaller. Yeah.
I'm thinking Rocky Mount, I think. But anyway, maybe look at, and there's people on this call, Jamal, if you could share with Casey and Teresa the bylaws from the Maryland chapter. Marge,
That'd be
she's
awesome.
about in y'all same space. Kim, you guys, that would be great if some of these other chapters, Alyssa might be about in that same, she may be a little larger, but some of the ones that are in that same number space. And a lot of those bylaws are out there on the NIGP site as well. But I would look at what other people are putting in there about that. My concern would be that they're going now from partners to members, and you really want them to be a partner. And maybe that's the sales pitch you can give them. And I think if you look at NIGP's take on this, and we are an arm of NIGP, they would say that, vendors aren't members, they're partners. They're not a member of NIGP. You have to be in public procurement, right? And they even speak so much as to talking about federal and employees as well, right? So I think we really have to think about when we're making adjustments, are we in keeping with our mothership, so to speak, right? And so that could be sort of some of your take on that if you're getting a lot of pushback on it. But I would highly recommend that those individuals on this call, that you guys could maybe send that to Casey and Teresa. That's what we're all about, right? Sharing.
I dropped my email in the chat too, so if anybody is able to, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I think that would be really helpful to you. And again, they're out there. A lot of the bylaws are out there on the website, and Caitlin has just put that information in the chat as well. Under governance chapter. So you'll see a lot of the bylaws out there. We try to collect those. We don't have them all. I will tell you that. This has been a great conversation today. I'm not going to hold you after the 2:00 hour, but I think we've had such great, meaningful conversations throughout this session. I'm so grateful that you took this hour out of your day to join us. I'm looking forward to the next one. I think we'll just continue to grow as a group, and people that aren't coming to Chapter Huddle are missing out. Let me just say, I didn't even participate in them. They weren't on my calendar. And so the last couple I've participated on Jen's behalf. And I've just enjoyed it so much. So I hope that you gain something from it as well. Again, y'all have a great weekend.
You too.
Thank you.
Friday.
Thank you.
Thanks, you too.
y'all.
Thank
All
you.
right, bye.
Thank you.
All right, Caitlin, thank you again.
Of
Thank you.
course.
Today we had 20 actual people and 5 CAs, I think.
Yeah, my highest number that we had was 24 and then 22 if we don't include us.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're staying up there around the 20s day. I actually sent the invite out today to all my chapter leaders. So that may be something in our next chapter leader call that we could do as a reminder to our
Yeah.
chapter leaders, each of us as chapter ambassadors, if we could send out that reminder, because I do think people forget it. So.
Yeah, and if it's hard when it's not on their calendars, you know.
Well, that was me. I never could remember that it was, this first, and today's the first, right? The
Yeah.
first Friday of the month. Most of the day I haven't even remembered that today's March. So.
Right, right.
All right. Thank you. You have
No
a good weekend.
problem.
All
You
right.
too.
All right. Bye, hon.
Bye.